Welcome to this explainer. Right now, as you're sitting there taking this all in, your brain is actively doing something that scientists only just recently discovered. We're going to dive straight into a breathtaking study published in the prestigious Nature journal back in June 2026. This research, coming out of Kyoto University, has revealed a literal catastrophic biological secret happening right inside your head. It's a discovery so incredibly counterintuitive that it completely stunned the very researchers who found it. For a century, biology has operated on one foundational, unbreakable rule. Your DNA is your master blueprint, and protecting it is the single most important job of any living cell. But, this team found out that your brain completely ignores that rule. To understand the sheer magnitude of this, we really have to talk about double-strand DNA breaks. If this severe genetic severing happened in literally any other cell in your body, it would instantly trigger massive emergency biological alarms. Your DNA is a double helix, right? Two entwined strands of genetic code. When both strands snap entirely, it is the absolute most severe form of DNA damage possible. In a normal cell, a double-strand break is a total crisis. It usually leads straight to dangerous mutations, the formation of cancer, or a process called apoptosis, which is immediate programmed cell death just to save the rest of the body. It is the ultimate biological nightmare scenario. Okay. Let's look at this definition, because this is where the story gets genuinely mind-bending. The brain doesn't just occasionally break its own DNA by accident. It doesn't happen because of environmental damage or a stray chemical or, a mistake in the copying process. It does it on purpose. It happens routinely. It's actually a fundamental, highly systematic part of how the developing human brain constructs itself. The destruction isn't some random glitch. It is the very mechanism of creation. So to solve the mystery of why the brain would intentionally damage its most sacred instruction manual, we first need to look at how the human brain is built. Section 1, the Great Neuron Migration. Think back to the very first weeks of a human's development in the womb. Billions of neurons are born deep inside the center of the developing brain, but they can't just stay there. To form the cerebral cortex, the complex outer layers responsible for your highest functions like thought, memory, and consciousness, they have to embark on this epic microscopic trek. They have to push, navigate, and really squeeze their way through incredibly crowded, tightly packed tissue to reach their final home. Imagine a thick, impenetrable jungle of biological fibers. At a microscopic scale, a neuron crossing this dense terrain is like a person physically pushing their way through a crowded, miles-long trench. The physical forces exerted on the cell during this journey are just immense. And this brilliantly illustrates the massive scientific paradigm shift we're looking at. For pretty much all of scientific history, our assumed reality was that no matter how difficult or pressurized that squeezing journey was, the cell's genetic material arrived perfectly intact. We assumed the nucleus is like an armored vault, protecting the code at all costs. We thought the DNA was entirely safe. But the new discovery proves we were completely wrong. The vault is breached. The DNA is absolutely shattered during the journey, literally sliced apart by the immense physical pressure of navigating the brain's dense architecture. Which brings us to the exact moment this destruction takes place. Part 2, the squeeze and the snap. So what exactly happens when DNA violently forces its way through these impossibly narrow gaps? Well, researchers at Kyoto University, collaborating with several other elite institutes, designed a really revolutionary experiment to find out. They needed to watch living neurons migrate in real time deep inside living tissue. To pull off this seemingly impossible task, they used specialized fluorescent markers, molecular tags ingeniously designed to flash with a bright magenta light the exact fraction of a second that DNA damage occurred. With these tracking lights active, they watched as these young, living neurons pushed through the impossibly tight spaces of the developing brain. The absolutely crucial point here is that they didn't just see minor nicks or tiny scratches as the cell squeezed through. They saw both strands, all two sides of the DNA double helix, completely snap, a total structural failure of the genetic code. And honestly, the most shocking part, this wasn't just happening in a few unlucky, damaged cells that got caught in a tight corner. This complete two-strand severing was happening in virtually every single migrating neuron they tracked. We're talking about widespread, systematic DNA destruction happening millions of times over across the entire developing brain. Now, if the story stopped there, none of us would be here to talk about it. It would just be a story of catastrophic cellular death, and the brain would never even form. Section 3. The astonishing repair system. Instead of dying, the neuron triggers a rapid, life-saving sequence. Within minutes of squeezing through the narrow gaps, the DNA snaps.
The magenta fluorescent markers light up, signaling a critical genetic emergency. But instead of triggering that biological self-destruct sequence, an army of microscopic repair enzymes rushes in. Over the next 1 to 23 hours, the brain gets to work rapidly stitching those severed genetic strands back together. They're acting like microscopic welders, frantically reconnecting the billions of base pairs. As researchers watched in absolute awe, the magenta damage markers slowly faded out. Within exactly 24 hours, complete DNA repair is achieved. The neuron arrives at its destination genetically intact, fully functional, and ready to help you think and feel. I absolutely love this quote from the lead researcher, Mineko Kangak. Because the physics of squeezing a rigid cell nucleus through such impossibly tight spaces makes DNA damage physically unavoidable, the brain didn't waste energy trying to prevent the break. I mean, it couldn't. Instead, it evolved this awe-inspiring biological workaround. It learned how to shatter and rebuild its own blueprint with stunning efficiency. It embraced the destruction to build something greater. It truly is a feature, not a bug.
But, as we know, nature is rarely perfect, and that introduces a pretty sobering real-world complication to our story. Section 4, when the repair fails. As powerful and vital as this rapid repair system is, in a small number of cases, it's just incomplete. The biological welders make a mistake. The broken DNA isn't fully stitched back together, or, it's stitched back together incorrectly. This persistent, unrepaired DNA damage lays the devastating groundwork for conditions scientists and doctors are already intimately familiar with. When the code is compromised, proteins misfold, cellular communication breaks down, and over time, it leads to disaster. It's heavily linked to neurodevelopmental disorders, as well as the slow, tragic breakdown of neural networks we see in Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's disease. But this realization changes everything about how we view those diseases. Previously, scientists thought that this severe DNA damage in the brain accumulated slowly, simply as a byproduct of aging, like a result of decades of wear and tear, oxidative stress, and just time. This discovery suggests that the fatal flaws might not come from aging at all. Actually, scratch that. It's more like this damage might be quietly waiting in our cells, persisting like a microscopic ticking time bomb from the neuron's very first journey, since before you were even born. As we bring all these fascinating pieces together, I really want to leave you with a completely new perspective on human biology. Section 5, built through destruction. Just think about the 3 pounds of matter inside your own skull right now. You are quite literally built through controlled destruction. The neural circuits behind your oldest childhood memories, the foundation of your unique personality, your ability to understand these very words I'm saying right now, they all exist because virtually every single neuron making up your mind survived a brutal evolutionary gauntlet. They shattered their own genetic code, and in a breathtaking feat of biological engineering, put themselves flawlessly back together. Understanding exactly how this repair system works, and crucially, why it sometimes fails, could open entirely new pathways to preventing or even curing devastating diseases like Alzheimer's. Which leaves us with this final, thrilling question. If our very consciousness is built on the ruins of shattered and repaired DNA, what other mind-bending, impossible secrets is the human body still hiding from us? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking those big questions, and we'll see you in the next one.